So the Liberal government of Canada is probably more committed to full-on reconciliation with Indigenous peoples than any government we've had. We've had individuals, Paul Martin is an example of somebody as Prime Minister who was very, very interested in doing something, had a minority government, and he came up with the Kelowna Accord, which was a sort of a major step forward in that regard. Prime Minister Chrétien was very enthusiastic and supportive, but didn't move the goalposts very far. But in this government, their commitment was absolutely clear. I don't doubt their sincerity. In fact, it's absolutely clear to me that the message of reconciliation has filtered through, not just through the cabinet, into the whole caucus, but also out into the bureaucracy. So the commitment is absolutely, absolutely there. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Trudeau, before he was Prime Minister Trudeau, raised the bar to unreasonable levels. When he talked about that he would implement UNDRIP, he was basically telling First Nations, in our eyes, as the government of Canada, you will have free, prior and informed consent rights over natural resource development. When he talked and said that governments grant permits, but communities grant permission, he said again that we will not impose a decision on communities. Well, unfortunately, governments impose decisions on communities all the time. They do it on Indigenous communities, they do it on non-Indigenous communities, they do it on provinces, they do it on the country as a whole. So those were statements that were sort of unsound in the sense that they were clear, they were unequivocal commitments that many of us in the field looked and said, oh, I just wish you hadn't said that. I wish you'd been a bit more cautious, because now they've backed away from implementing UNDRIP in full. Now with these decisions, they made it clear that the federal government will make a decision rather than letting individual First Nations make a decision. And so in one sense, there's a new form of reconciliation that has to take place, and that is that the Liberal government has to reconcile itself with what it promised and what First Nations had a good reason to expect. If we see Standing Rock, North Dakota kind of situations with arrests and with conflict and with police intervention, if we see the mayor of Vancouver and 3 First Nation chiefs from the Lower Mainland arrested because of their civil disobedience, this will really challenge all other First Nations in the country to choose sides over natural resource development, over Kinder Morgan, and over the behavior of the Government of Canada. So I don't see the announcements that came late in November as representing anything approaching a final judgment on where we're actually going to be. It's going to change the nature of the debate and the intensity of the conflict, quite frankly.